Yeah, hi, Bhargav. In the last class, we have been discussed about text text formatting elements inside the HTML. Okay. Today, what I'm going to show you is containers. And before that,
Okay,
before going to the containers, let us see the other category of elements of HTML like block level and inline elements.
okay, అండి.
Okay. So I told you already, all HTML elements are classified into two types. One is block level elements, second one is inline elements. So block level elements in the sense, okay, will occupy entire width of the browser. These elements has a property, okay, that is going to occupy entire width of the browser. For example, you can consider, let me type HTML block level. Okay, so I just typed h1 just for the sake of understanding. I just written a heading. Now you can see when I open this one, you can find this heading and right click on it, inspect it, so that when you place a mouse, you just use the selector in the console window, okay, I mean a debugger window, and place on where you want to place, okay, you just place it. So it is showing that the selector is going to show the entire width, actual width of this particular h1 element. So if you go to the styles properties in the debugging window, you can see the width is given as, the element width is given as 1350 pixels and height is 37 pixels. That means my laptop screen width almost 1350 pixels. Okay, that is why it's showing the entire width like this. Okay, so this is what is called a block level element. Similarly, we have inline elements are there. Inline elements are the elements which will occupy the width only, the content that we place inside an element. Okay, occupy width of the content element. Okay, so this is inline element. So this is what is called inline elements. Okay, so for example, I can take one example here. Take a paragraph. A paragraph is also a block level element, so it will occupy entire width. Okay, and after that, I'm going to place a mark tag. Mark tag inside this. I'm going to use this. Sorry. Now you can see the width, the element when I place my selector on this particular element is showing the width of 72 pixels only. Just select it, you can see. And by the way, the width is given for this element inside this debugging window is given as automatic width. That means we don't know when it's not fixed width. Okay, if the content size increases automatically, the content of the element, sorry, the size of the element will also increase. Okay, so that is why it's mentioning it as a auto. If you want to see the element width, just use the selector and place on top of the element, inline element. This is a called inline element. It has a feature that it can place inside any other block level element or inline element. That kind of feature it has. Okay, so it occupy only this particular width. So we can place the inline element side by side. Why? Because it has automatic width based on the content is going to occupy its own width. Whereas it's not possible to place block level elements side by side. Okay, only we can place those elements one after the other as a stacking order. Okay, that is about the block level elements. And in HTML, all what you can call text elements are referred as inline elements. We have seen already this one. Okay, except heading and paragraph tags. Okay, all headings and paragraph tags are block level elements. Remaining all are inline elements. Okay, and one more category of block level elements that you can see is containers. Okay, we have almost all containers in HTML are block level containers only, block level elements. Only one container is what you can call. Sorry, I think two containers we have inline containers. Okay, so let me take those things. Container or generic containers. I can say generic page containers. Page containers dot html. Let us make this one HTML containers. Just make use of. In HTML, we have plenty of containers are there. Okay. Uh, generally, generally speaking, we have only two types of containers that are available in the HTML5. Okay, I'm not considering table and form, all those things. Only I'm considering generic containers like div and span. Okay, div and span. Okay, are available in previous versions of HTML. Okay, so div means it's going to divide the page into different sections. Okay, and div is a block level element. Div is a block level, whereas span is a, of course, use only small letters because all HTML. Of course, there is no case sensitive, but it's a good practice to use small letters only for this. Okay, span is inline container, block level container. Okay, so generally speaking, we have categorized the HTML elements into one is based on the content that we are going to place. Like we have text elements, media elements, okay, tables, all these things, containers, all these things, right? And based on the element property or element behavior, like a block level or what do you call based on the width, it is categorized into block and inline elements. And again, we have another categorization is there that is called semantic and non-semantic. Okay, we have seen already that kind of thing in introduction itself. Semantic and non-semantic. Semantic means more meaningful tag elements. Okay, for example, let me go through a simple example for this. Just go for okay, we have block level elements. These are the inline elements. Okay, and semantic and non-semantic. Semantic means we do have a meaningful tag. For example, if you go for the span or if you go for the div, we don't identify what is the purpose of div immediately, right? By looking at the div tag, we don't. If it is a newcomer, so he might be in a confusion what actually the div will be, okay, and what it's going to do. Whereas coming to the semantic elements, you can see form. So that means generally it's a you can see the name itself indicating that it's some kind of login form or registration form, something like that. And we have something called table. Table is also a semantic tag. Image is also a semantic tag. Okay. So likewise, we categorize the elements into non-semantic and semantic elements. Okay, so in HTML5, almost 80% of the tags are, I can say 90%, 90% of the tags are semantic tags only. Okay, so why we are going for semantic tags in the sense? In order to provide the accessibility. Okay, our application should be very we want to provide accessibility for our application so that a blind people can access and a developer can easily understand what the code we have written, okay, or other people got written, something like that. Okay, so that they can immediately start work on it and they can fix the issues and they can solve the problems. Okay, so you can see semantic elements in HTML5. We have a plenty of things are there like this. You can see by looking at the name itself, you can easily identify what actually this kind of or this particular tag is going to do in our application, right? Okay, now let me show a simple example for this. Now, this is my website or my web page, and this is a web page was created using HTML5 structure. This is HTML4 structure. Before HTML5, what we do, we are going to divide the entire page into different pieces by using a div section, or I can say div element. Okay, and if we don't have such kind of attribute, id attribute in this div, so uh, this is a div, this is div. So by looking at all the div tags, we don't get uh, what do you call, we are not able to understand what is going to do and what this particular section is going to do and what this particular section is going to show on the web page, something like that. Okay, so just look at the HTML5 structure. Instead of div, you can directly use a tag called header. This was only available in HTML5. So by looking at the tag, we can easily identify that, okay, this is the header section of the page, and this is the footer section of the page, and this is a navigation bar. Navigation bar in the sense where we can place some menu items, okay, a page navigation, next and previous, something like that. Okay, and we have some articles as well. Okay, so by looking at the meaningful tags, a developer can easily understand what the code written by the previous developers. Okay, and this is very useful when we use screen reader softwares for the blind people. Okay, so screen reader software can easily understand, okay, this is the header section, this is the article section, something like that. Okay, so let me check it out with a simple web page, BBC News, something like that, something we have. Now let us examine this particular BBC News website. Now right click on it, inspect it, right? So now you can see a header is there. That means it's indicating that, see, this is the header part of the bbcnews.com. So all the content, the menu, title, all this was placed inside the header section. Okay. Likewise, it should have the footer section as well. But here I don't find any footer section. Might be he missed out the things. And again, we have another header. Two headers are there on top of this. Okay. And this is the main header, I think. And you can see inside this you have the page navigation title. Okay, just click on the title. Might be there should be an h1. Actually this is a h1 element, I think. H2, actually this is given as, sorry, this is news navigation. 1 2 3 4. Okay, okay, okay. And where does this comes from? Let's check for this one. So okay, this is an SVG graphic. It's not a h1, it's an SVG graphic. This was created using HTML SVG graphic tag. We will discuss these things later on. Okay, anyway, that's fine. So we have the header section, and at the bottom you can see this is the footer section, and in between you have many articles. Okay, we can divide the page into like this. Okay, different sections like this, and we have the menu bar. Many links are there. Okay, so it is better to use HTML5 syntax when we get into developing a web page, so that it will provide a way to easy access, or it provides accessibility, right? So let us talk about the containers in HTML5. These are the two containers available in the past. Of course, I'm not talking about the table and form. Okay, so the generic containers that are available in previous versions of the HTML. Okay, and generic containers in HTML. Let me make it out a list. We have header, let's see, the header, and we do have footer, right? And we have main section, okay, and we have article section. These are the basic things that we need to know, okay. And just like a section, this is a generic section I can talk, okay. Likewise, we have different types of containers are there. I'll list out later on. So let us divide my page into different things. I have a header section. First of all, let's see the header. Inside this header, I can write some title, so I can use a h1 tag. Okay, so I can go for something like a desk, and I want to place some navigation. So for this, I can use nav bar. Okay, so inside this nav bar, I can place some menu items like home, about us, something like that. Okay, so I'm not going to list out those things right now. I just use the nav bar in order to indicate we have some navigation thing in our page. And the next one is main section, and finally we have footer section. Okay, in the footer, I just want to place something called a copyright things. Okay, uh, copy RGHD copyrighted by ampersand copy semicolon. Sorry, I think I should use here copyrighted by UI desk. Okay, something like that. And in the main section, I want to divide the page into different sections or articles. So I'm going to place some articles. Article, article one. See, generally, when I'm talking about the article, okay, an article should have a title. Okay, it should have some paragraph content or any kind of image. It's optional. Generally, if you look into the newspaper, okay, you can find some editorial columns or editorial articles and general articles or political news section, and that we have different types of articles, right? So every article, generally speaking, I'm talking, okay, every article should have a title, right? So definitely we need to place a title inside the article. This is not mandatory, but it is a way, it's showing that it's kind of a professionality. So when we are talking about the article means, then immediately we have to get something into mind called a title. After that, you have to place some text. For example, let's go to the BBC News itself. I think this is an article. Trump. Let us go for this one. Trump. I can go for this. So when I click on this, every article should have its own title. Okay, and this is not having much content here. Let me go for this one. I can take this. Now see, it has some title and it has some paragraph content or some other content. Not only this, we can place some image as well. Not only image, you can place video or you can place some audio, but definitely article should have a title. Okay, so you can differentiate article with the advertisements. Okay, so these are not advertisements. Let us go for some advertisement here. Mm. If you look at the advertisement, okay, so it doesn't have a title, right? Sometimes you can find some advertisements inside your web page so that it doesn't have any title. So you can see this is, it doesn't have any title. This is just a tweet from the Twitter, right? So tweet doesn't have, sometimes doesn't have a title. So you have the name, it's name, just a name, right? So for generic type of sections, we use a tag called section. For an article, you have to use article. Article in the sense, when I'm talking article means definitely it should have H2, header as well as some paragraph. Now let us go for this. For this purpose, I'm going to place something like H2 something like political news, or instead of that, web development training, and let me add some content for this. I'm not going to add any text to this. Got it? Right. So from now onwards, if you find an article, definitely it should have what you call a H2 element. So if you want to place an advertisement, don't use article. Okay, instead of article, of course, article itself is a container. But if you want to place an advertisement, don't use article tag. Use section tag. Why? Because section is a generic section. You can place any kind of content inside of it. Any kind in the sense you can place some images. Okay, you can place some article inside of the section. Okay, I'll get what I'm saying. So it is possible to write article inside a section. Okay, and it's not a good idea to place in section inside an article. If you want to do, you can do that, but it's not a good idea. Okay, so a section will be a generic section where you can place an article tag as well, and you can place some what do you call advertisements or normal images, something like that. Anything you can place. Okay, so when I say article means it should have a title as well as the paragraph. uh, you can find something like what is the difference between an article and a section means article should have the title tag. Okay, it's not mandatory, but it's a way of indicating the professionality. So it definitely should have a title. That is a tradition that we follow from the printing press itself. Okay, and whereas section is generic section where we can place any kind of data, like you can place image, video, and you can place some what you call advertisement, something like that. One second. All right. So that is the difference. So you may get a question like, what are the difference between an article and a section? So a section is a generic way of representing the content. Like you can place an advertisement, you can place normal images, you can place some kind of videos as well. Whereas article means definitely article should have a title tag as well as some paragraph content. So let me add one more article here. For the time being, I'm not going to use this. Or you can place this. I can place something like an article inside. You can place the article inside the section. Of course, you can place section tag inside the article, but it's not a good idea to place. Right? It's a section is some kind of generic representation. So try to be more professional when you're going to use this one. So insert article section. So what I'm going to do here, I can place one more title here. This is H2 or something like H2 Java section. Let us suppose Java section. So inside this Java, I can have something called core Java training. Okay, and we have advanced Java training. So we have two types of articles inside the Java section. Okay, this is advanced Java. So hope you understand. Now you have a section tag where you can place multiple articles inside of it. Okay, and the article means definitely you have to place. There should be a title first of all. You remember that one. Article means definitely there should be a title. Okay, right. So let us see. You don't find much fantasy in the browser itself. Why? Because it's just a HTML page, right? So you don't find much thing. So inside the Java section, we have two things, and this is the footer section. Until unless we add CSS, okay, we don't get much look to the web page. Okay, so first we are constructing the layout using HTML. Okay, hope you understand a header tag, main tag, article tag, section tag, okay, and footer tag, and we have navigation tag is there. Okay, navigation tag is used to place what we call menu items, and we have something called aside tag. Aside tag means we can place if you want to place any kind of banners for the right side or left side, side content, or any kind of data, something like. I can make this kind of list of things I can place inside a banner. Sorry, a side banner, a side tag. Okay. Likewise, we have plenty of semantic tags are there inside your HTML. I told you already, article should have at least one heading, and don't use H1 in the article section. Why? Because H1 is used as a title, right? Always remember there should be only one H1 tag in a web page. Okay, one H1 tag in a web page in the sense that should be a title. Multiple H1 means multiple titles will be there. That is not a good idea to place multiple H1 tags in the page, so it doesn't look much professional way. And we have seen article tag, main tag, header tag, section tag, footer tag, essay tag. We have seen nav tag, time on a nav bar, and we have something called nav bar, sort of time, details, and caption. I'll explain these things as we go on. Okay, next we'll see how to render images on your web page. Hope you understand the containers, what kind of containers we have. Generic containers in HTML5. This is a HTML5. Okay, so if you want to place, see, instead of all these things, you can place something called a div section also. Something else. Hold Control plus D, so it will select two things. Now you can write D. Instead of header, you can place a div. Now instead of main tag, sorry, instead of nav itself, we can place div. A div can be used. A div is a normal generic container that is available in the previous versions. Okay, where HTML5 has more semantic tags than a simple div and span. Okay, so you can place those things here. So you can place menu instead of article. You can place ID. See, sorry, div. So when you place like this, all the things as divs. So it is some kind of what we can call. mm, See, what this div is going to represent, and what this div is going to represent, and what this div is going to represent. So such kind of ambiguity will get when you look into the code, right? So it is better to use a meaningful tags in our web application. Okay, so that is what is called semantic tags in HTML5. Okay, right. And by the way, in order to make this div instead of header, if you want to use div, please try to use a div ID attribute. This is an attribute where it's going to represent some extra information for this. So GAD ID header ID equal to main, so that you can easily identify what this div is going to do. Okay. Instead of that, you can go for HTML5 semantic tags. Okay. Hope you understand this. And by the way, you can see for article we have how many letters are there? Uh, 4 plus 7 letters are there. For this div, what do you call 3 plus space 4 plus 4, 8, 8 plus 8, 16 there. So here I'm using 16 characters. For this, I have 7 characters. So if my page has more number of div sections like this, and ID name has been increasing, it can be any kind of ID name. Let us suppose if you use HTML5 semantic tags, it will take less number of characters than compared to this particular representation. So what happens if the number of characters increases in a page? Obviously, the page size will increase, right? So when the page size increases, okay, obviously the performance of the page, that means the downloading of the page from the server will be reduced. Sorry, will increase. Okay, so the performance is going to reduce. Okay, so it is better to reduce the number of characters that we are going to use inside our HTML page, or HTML or CSS or JavaScript, what are the thing. uh, the code should be very optimized, and very less code we require, so that um, it should fall under, see, a kind of performance. Okay, okay, so a page size should, let's say, should be less than 700 KB. This is one kind of benchmark I can call. This is a kind of um, uh, a mark where, by using, see, below this, so we can manage the performance of the page. Okay, whereas above this, if we increase the page size greater than 700 KB, what happens? The downloading time will increase. Obviously the page load time will be increased, so it's what you call lazy loading, I can say, lazy loading. Okay, so always try to, it's very difficult to always keep on eye on this particular 700 KB size, but anyway, and try to be make your file to be less than 700 KB. So one is, it is one of the performance issue. Okay, note. And the second note I want to introduce, an article tag should have a should have a title, H2, H3, H4, H5, or H6, any kind of these things. Only one H1 is only one H1 per page. Okay, professionality. Try to make this one, and the number of tags that we are going to use, or the number of elements that we are going to use, not only elements, attributes, elements, tags, what are the things. Okay, uh, a page should contain less than 500 DOM nodes. I told you what it is, DOM, right? Document Object Model. So every tag or every element or every attribute that is going to load inside of the DOM is referred as a node. So all the elements should be less than 500 DOM nodes. Okay, that is one of the benchmark you can place, should contain. So mostly you have to write around 500 tags. I'm not talking about the number of characters. 500 tag names you can use. Okay, document object model. Okay, so these are some kind of performance things you need to follow. Of course, sometimes we may increase. Of course, I'm talking about this is for page, not for a complete website. Okay, a website can contain multiple pages, right? So a page should have, or you can call, less than 500 nodes. Okay, that is about your mm, containers. And the next one is, let us see how images are going to be rendered on your web page. Let's talk about the images. Image.html. So first the thing, let me know, place, images are inline elements. Images are inline elements, so that we can move the image, we can place the image left side, right side, or center of the page. Okay, why? Because inline elements can be placed side by side. Okay, so always remember, inline elements can be moved along the horizontal axis of the browser. So if you want to place an image, there is a tag called img in. Okay, this is the independent tag. Tag is independent tag. See, When I press tab, it comes along with the source attribute. This is an attribute. I told you already in the attribute section. And by the way, let me go for the introduction for the time being. For the image tag, we have two kinds of syntaxes. Just like now you can see this is one kind of syntax and this is another kind of syntax. So this syntax is called HTML representation, and this closing behavior of the image is referred as a XHTML representation. So these are called independent tags, and you can use any one of these in our HTML. Whereas in XML, you have to use only this one, XHTML. I can say XHTML, you have to use this one. Why? Because XHTML is a very strict language. We need to place a closing behavior for every tag. Okay, even though it's an independent tag, we need to place such kind of a slash at the end of the tag. Okay, that is one thing. The next one is I I, I discussed about three kinds of attributes. One is string attributes, enumerated attributes, and boolean attributes. Now, source attribute of the image tag will comes under as a string attribute. Why? Because see, for this anchor tag, you can see this tag has a string. Okay, this can be any kind of character. Okay, this is a key attribute name. This is the attribute value. Likewise, here SRC is a name of the attribute, and you can place anything inside the quotations. Generally, what we do is we place the what do you call URL of the image. URL in the sense uniform resource locator. URL uniform resource locator. Uniform resource locator. Resource means what are the resources that you can find inside the internet? It can be text. Okay. It can be image. It can be graphic, video, audio. Okay. Audio files. Okay. And animation. Something like that. Okay, these are the resources that you can find inside of internet. So how do I form the resources? There are two types of we call it as a path as well. The URL we can call it as a path. Okay, uh, PAT is path or URL, I can say. So there are two types of paths are there. Paths. One is absolute path. Second one is relative path. Okay, so absolute path means okay locating the resource in the sense any kind of these things from the root directory that is called absolute path. Generally we use something like example. I can say example. uh, I do have images here, pictures, let me copy some images here. I want this image cola. Let's go for this. What is our workspace? I think it's a 10 p.m. batch on this one where I'm 7 p.m. right? So this is so in my folder structure of the HTML, or at least here, I just place some images here. Inside the HTML, I want to place images. Yes, images. Okay, right click on it, open, paste. Now, where is my image? That is there inside this location, right? This is the URL. This is the path. Now copy this path and take it as an example for this. Now it starts from root directory, right? Okay. So this is what is called absolute path. We are going to search for the resource from the root directory. Likewise, we have something called this can be mostly used in our internet. Okay, for third-party images or third-party resources. Okay. So for example, I want to check it out. Not this one. I want to get this image. No, it's not an image. I want to get this. Where do I get this one? Image address. Let's go for this. See, it has something. This is the server address. This is the root. Okay. From that you are going to locate it. Okay. So such third-party servers, what do you call, resources can be accessed using absolute path. Got it? Example one, and example two. Hope you understand this one. But when we are going to work with our project directory, we always go for the relative path. Relative path in the sense locating the resource from the what I can say current directory, from the current directory. Okay. So example, I can say you have something called see we already there inside the HTML folder, right? HTML work location. So in order to access this what do you call this particular image, what I can do, I can use something called images slash koala dot jpg. Now that's it. Okay, this is simple way of representing or accessing your resources from the current directory. This is current directory. Got it? Okay. So we always use generally if we have images in our project, we always place those projects inside our image directory, and we are going to access through relative path. Okay. Now I'll show the advantage of doing this. So first of all, let us access through absolute path. I just place the absolute path and open this one. I hope you this should be okay. Anything gone wrong? I'm not getting this. Oh, images dot src, sorry, dot jpg, right? Oops. No, 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 no. Slash koala koala. Yes, I'm able to render my image through absolute path. Okay, so I'm getting this one. Now, what happens if suddenly because of server maintenance or generally we place our projects inside the servers, right? So because of server maintenance, we are going to change the location of our HTML folder to some other here. I'm coming out of this and let me take a test folder. I just place this one. Now just open your image. You're not getting this one. Why? Because your work location got changed. Okay. So inside your code, it is pointing to the previous work location. Okay. So when we, if we are going for absolute path, if we change the folder structure, obviously that will affect our. Sorry, we need to do some changes in the code as well. Okay, so that is very tedious task. Why? Because we are here we are seeing only one single image element, but if you go for our project, we'll have plenty of images, thousands of images will be there, or thousands of resources will be there. Not only image, we have different kinds of resources. So it's not a good idea to go with the absolute path in our project. What do you call the images that we have inside our project structure. So what we are going to do, we just make use of something called images slash koala dot jpg. Oops. Okay, it's got eraser, right? So first of all, what we need to do. Oh, again, let me copy back this particular HTML into my workspace, actual workspace. This is got it. So let us open this one. Mm, I hope it will come. Yeah, it is there. Now instead of this, I just want to remove all this stuff, save this, and open this in browser. You're able to access this one, right? Now let me copy this folder to some other location. Come back. Where is test? You just place here and open your project structure. Go to your file. Still, you are able to load your image, right? So that is the advantage of placing uh, what is the images in your project structure are accessing through a relative path. Okay. Hope you understand. Okay, and close this one, close this one. Right, you're able to load your image. And by the way, you have the image has some other properties like resizing properties like width and height. I can reduce the width and height as well in terms of pixels. See, it changes to 100 by 100 pixels, and these are two attributes that we can make use of inside image. And we have something called align attribute is there. So let us make middle. Let us try to do this. Okay, middle is not going to work for the images. I can place right, align right, right. You can place the image right side. Okay, and we have something called border. We can place some border around the image so that you can find some border. Okay, these are some HTML attribute that is available inside your image. Resizing image properties, alignment property attribute, border property, okay, source property. Okay, like this we can place any kind of any kind of image, and always remember it is your thing that you need to, whether you need to follow absolute path or relative path. If you are accessing third party servers means definitely you go for the absolute path, but if you are accessing resources inside your computer or inside your project directory, definitely go for the relative path. That is one of the good suggestions that we can find inside related to the images. Okay, and do we have any other tag is there? Yeah, one more important thing is alt attribute. Okay, cola. Okay, a wild animal. So call a wild animal in the sense this is an alternative text. If because of what do you call either mistake in the URL path, okay, or because of what do you call lazy loading of the page, or because of invalid URL, okay. So you may not find image on the browser sometimes, right? Sometimes you don't find the image. So at that time, I want to show some text on the browser instead of image. Okay, if image got failed to load, I want to show a text. So that is something an alternative text. So this is called an this can be given as alt equal to a wild animal. So this will provide an accessibility to the page. That means so user can understand by seeing this particular text. Okay, this is an animal image, so he can assume, right? So by using this alt tab, we are going to improve the accessibility of the page, of the image, I can say, of the page itself. Got it? So alt tag is also very important. And I want to place some caption, what do you call, bottom of this particular image. Okay, so let's go for the left, and I want to place some. A caption can be placed either by using H4 or something like that. So, cola, funny animal in Africa, something like that. I just place this one. Oops. And because of what do you call inline nature of image, the next H3 is going to place as a what do you call inline element. See, we can see that. I'm going to see first this one's placed block color element. After that, you are going to see this inline element. So how do I do that? Let me make it as the top of this one. Okay, that is fine, but it's not a caption, right? I want to make this to be to the bottom. Okay, and yeah, how do I place a caption for this one? It's very difficult to place, right? So what happens if I move this one right side? The caption is here, but the image got moved. Are you getting? So instead of doing such kind of individual placing an individual caption for the images with heading tags, all those things. Okay, there is a tag was given in HTML5, a container, okay, so that we can group up the caption. First of all, let me add a caption for that. We have something called fig caption, okay, a wild animal. So this figure caption is going to represent the caption for this image, a wild animal. But unfortunately, um, if I move the image, it's not moving. We need to provide, see, again, align, something like RIGHT. See, it comes here. Instead of doing this, you need to group up these things. In order to group up, I can use a figure tag. A container is available in HTML5 that is called figure tag. So which will group up the figure caption as well as image tag. So now you can remove the align attribute, and you can place that align attribute inside this figure tag. Right. See, it's come after the image. And let us move to the left. What happens? Left to left. See, along with the caption, we are able to see the image as well, right? And let us make it to the center. We are able to place this content center of the page. Why? Because figure is a block level element, so the content inside the block level element can be moved left, right, and center. Okay. Whereas inline elements are going to move only left and right. Either it will be at left side or it will be at right side. There is no chance of placing middle element. Of course, we can place table and some other things as well. Okay, hope you understand. So this is very much important. Now, if you go for BBC News itself, you can find such kind of type of figure and figure caption for your BBC News. Now you can see I have. Now let me go for this. Now you can see this is your figure caption. This is the figure, and this is the figure caption. Of course, they added some styles, okay, by using CSS. Now let me right click on it, inspect it. You can find figure and figure caption as well. Figure caption is there, figure container. Got it? Okay. So it is better idea to place. If you want to make a figure caption along with the image, it is better to place inside a figure tag. Okay, that is a good practice. Right? And figure tag is also one of the block element. Right.